There's a story in Luke's Gospel after the resurrection of Jesus where two of his disciples are walking from Jerusalem to a small village near Jerusalem called Emmaus. And on the way, they encounter Jesus on the road, but they don't recognize him. They don't realize it's him. And they look sad, so Jesus asks them what's going on, and they explain everything that's gone on around his arrest and around his crucifixion. And he opens up the scriptures to them and explains how the Hebrew scriptures all pointed towards the Messiah having to suffer and die, but rise again in order to save his people and reconcile all people to God. And they get to where they're travelling to at the end of that day, and they camp and they ask Jesus to stay with them. And he breaks some bread at the beginning of the meal, and at that moment we hear that their eyes are opened and they recognise him. And in that moment he disappears from their sight. And one of those two men turns to the other and said, "Didn't our hearts burn within us when we were on the road and he opened up the scriptures to us?" Our hearts burned within us. Has that ever happened to you? If you've ever read some of the Bible or had some of it explained to you, have you ever had your heart burn within you? Have you ever had something happen when you've been reading that or hearing it explained where it has touched you deeply, emotionally, spiritually, really got to the crux of something that was important to you? Because just like those two men, when that happens, that is Jesus. We may not recognize that he is there with us. We may not recognize his voice at that moment. We may not even believe in him. But when something in the Bible touches us deeply and burns within our hearts, that is because Jesus is present, opening up God's word to us, opening up God's will and his love to us, and asking us to listen and to step out in faith with him. So if your heart ever burns within you when you hear or read anything from the Bible, Jesus is there with you. Listen to him.